Hello everybody, my name is Marina and I am a transformational coach, and I have been plant-based for over 9 years, and for many years I taught people how to transition to plant-based eating and how to stick to it long term. So today I'm going to share with you why eat plant-based, what are the benefits, why it's so amazing for ourselves and for the planet and for so much beyond that. And then I'm going to give you some tips on how to transition and how to eat plant-based for the greatest benefits. So let's start with why eating plant-based. So my story is actually that I went plant-based for my health over 9 years ago. And it was because of my mom's powerful healing story. She healed a disease in her bladder called interstitial cystitis. And at that time, I was suffering from very severe PMS. And that was really something that I wanted to heal because it didn't seem normal that every month I should be completely debilitated. And then, of course, I wanted to prevent getting sick with my mom's disease. I was really scared that it was going to be genetic and it was just going to be horrible and stop my life like it had done for my mom. My mom was sick for 8 years and she didn't leave the house. She couldn't function, and going plant-based really helped her completely reverse over time, of course, this really, really cruel illness. And so one of the reasons, the first reason really that I went plant-based was entirely for my health. And over time, I actually realized the benefits for the planet and the animals. And so for your health, why is eating plant-based so wonderful for your health? It is the only lifestyle proven to reverse heart disease. Heart disease is currently the number one killer, at least in the Western world, and it is such a cruel disease to die from or to even live with. And not only can we prevent heart disease with a plant-based lifestyle, we can even reverse it. Again, it's the only diet that has been clinically shown to reverse heart disease, which is so powerful. And that alone to me is proof enough, but there's more. A plant-based lifestyle can actually reverse all of the prevent and also reverse in some cases things like diabetes. Some stories of cancer have been shared as well. But in terms of prevention, it can prevent diabetes, it can prevent cancer, it can prevent lung disease and liver disease and just the top killers that we are facing today as a human race. So that is a huge, huge reason to do it. The important thing is to do it right, and I'm going to share with you in a little bit how. Now, the other reasons that are really, really powerful and can help you really ground why you're doing this, setting an intention. That's actually my first tip for you, is to really set an intention, like, why are you doing this? Because anytime you make a lifestyle change, it's not easy, it's uncomfortable. We are going against our comfort zone. And so when you have an intention that's even bigger than just yourself and your own health, it's very powerful. So of course, plant-based lifestyle is very compassionate, right? It is the most compassionate that we can be. It's never going to be perfect. We always cause some amount of harm to animals, but eating vegan and plant-based is the most compassionate way to be for animals. And that became really my reasoning, especially when I found out about the dairy industry, because in the beginning I was actually vegetarian, and then I found out that in the dairy industry, which is a very cruel industry, the baby cows are actually ripped away from their mothers at a very young age and taken to produce milk and to be milk producing machines, and they don't last very long because they are artificially inseminated on something called a rape rack in the industry, so that they get pregnant over and over. Because of course, just like humans, cows do not produce milk just like that. They produce milk when they are impregnated. So that's just one example. But in general, animals feel. They are sentient beings. And so, they have social behaviors and patterns. They have love for their babies. They want freedom just like us. They are intelligent beings, and so of course they are aware when they are being killed. They have an awareness of it, and not participating in that has been so important to me once I gained awareness of the cruelty that goes into that industry. The last part is the environmental, which is very exciting because when you think about it, if the environment is in bad shape, we are definitely in bad shape, and our health doesn't even matter if the environment is in bad shape. And when you eat plant-based, you're doing the best thing that you can for the environment, because greenhouse gases are very much tied to animal agriculture, water production, the forest. You know, one of the most striking examples for me was going into the jungle in Costa Rica. And then as we left the jungle, all we saw for miles and miles was animal agriculture, animal farming. And it was so obvious that this jungle was cut down in order to have land for grazing for cows. So the environment, if you're interested in that, there are many documentaries that I love, but for the environment, I definitely recommend that you watch Cowspiracy. I recommend that you watch What the Health and Game Changers. I recommend that you watch Dominion and Earthlings to learn more about animals. So those are the reasons, and I encourage you to really pick the one that resonates most with you. At this point in my journey, 9 years later, I would say it's all of them, but the thing that is most powerful for me is justice at this moment. And that is because I see animals as the most vulnerable of any being on our planet. They are a lot more vulnerable even than the most vulnerable human being, because they are completely controlled by humans at the moment. And so being kind to them and actually respecting their wisdom is so beautiful to me. And knowing that even children can be raised to learn this basic thing, to respect an animal, to me feels like if I raise a child that is going to, and I will, of course, when I have children, to really respect animals, they would respect any other being. So that is mine. That's my intention. And I really want you to really ground into what is yours, like what is driving you, and to really hold it close to your heart, because again, this is a big change and it does feel uncomfortable sometimes, and sometimes in the beginning it feels like you have to give stuff up. At this point, I don't feel it anymore at all. I love the food, I enjoy this lifestyle, and it is not a diet for me. But in the beginning, yeah, there were sometimes hard times, making that switch. So it's really important that you know your intention, and even print out something that's going to remind you of it. Maybe it's a picture of an animal you love. Maybe it's a picture of you in your healthiest state that you want to come back to. Something that's going to remind you, and just put it in your kitchen, put it in your room where you work. Just have it near you at all times, in your wallet. It's a really, really great reminder. So that is my first tip for you, to really set an intention. The second thing is to make a slow transition. Don't rush, don't freak yourself out. So start with breakfast. Every week, incorporating a plant-based breakfast for a week, for 2 weeks. And I want you to keep doing it until you feel really comfortable, until it's no longer outside of your comfort zone. So when we make behavioral changes, it's really important to look at our comfort zone and remember that we want to take just a tiny step out of it, not a huge leap, because when we take a tiny step out of the comfort zone, we continue to make the change. We don't go into this kind of mode, right? And so just a tiny step. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but it's not going to feel completely exhausting and entirely foreign and shocking. So continue with breakfast, because that's a very simple meal to change. And just so you know, I have 2 amazing online courses on soulintheraw.com that can teach you everything you need to make this switch, to make this transition, with recipes and everything that you need to really expand on this conversation. So start with breakfast, and then when you feel very comfortable, go on to lunch, and then go on to dinner. Just make it a slow transition. That's my first step. My next tip for you is to have a community, so that you're not doing this alone, to have support. So whether it's online or in person, have your people around you that you can share your experience, that you can share meals with. It makes a huge, huge, huge difference. After that, I want to remind you something huge. This is why a lot of people seem to fall off the wagon, so to speak. And that is portions. Okay, so when you are eating plant based, you're going to be eating much larger portions than before. And the reason is that plant based foods are very rich in fiber and water. And that stuff doesn't have calories, it's just bulk. And so you're gonna need to eat more food. A lot of people say, I feel completely drained and exhausted on plant based eating. And 99% of the time, it's because they are not eating portions that are big enough. So make sure that you increase your portions and that you eat until you're completely full. Really listen to your body, get in tune with your body so that you notice when you're completely full and satisfied. My next tip is to make sure that you are supplementing with B12. That is the one supplement that everyone needs to take as a vegan. A lot of times people who aren't vegan also need to take B12, so it's not something that is only for vegans, but it's definitely something for vegans to remember to take a vegan B12 supplement. In some cases, you will also need to supplement with vitamin D, especially if you don't get enough sun. So that's something to talk with your doctor about and measure in a blood test and make sure that you're getting enough. My next tip for you is to eat a whole food plant-based diet. I don't even like to use the word diet, I like to use the word lifestyle. But it's important to talk about this because veganism is getting super popular, and when you walk into the store, you're going to find a lot of replacements for meat, for cheese, for eggs, like literally for everything you can imagine. And it's really important to note that those foods are fun. And those foods are transition foods, and you can also keep them in your diet in small amounts, but you don't want to get most of your calories from those foods. Those foods are packed with oil and sugar and preservatives and food coloring and all kinds of stuff that your body really doesn't need. And a lot of people actually nowadays experience poorer health on a plant-based diet, and they're really confused. So I like to share this, that there are many ways to be vegan. You can be a junk food vegan and you can be a healthy vegan. So it's very important to have a very well planned whole food plant-based lifestyle. And again, I have so many resources for you on my website, soulintheraw.com, where I have online courses and I have meal plans for you to check out and follow so that you make sure you're getting all your nutrients, you're eating a well-planned, well-balanced lifestyle. The next thing I want to share is that if you fall off the wagon, it's not a big deal. Don't beat yourself up. And when we make any change, compassion and self-acceptance is huge. So I really like to think of this transition as a mirror for any other change that you would want to make in your life. So when you're making this change, what I encourage you to do is be like a little observer scientist. Observe yourself, observe how you are making the change, not only what you're doing in the process, but how are you making this change? Are you kind to yourself? Are you nice to yourself? Or are you beating yourself up throughout? And if you are in self-judgment and beating yourself up, then I really recommend shifting that. And that is going to serve you in every area of your life. And that is really what I specialize in as a transformational coach. I work with people on their patterns of behavior and I coach them to shift their relationship to blocks, to fear, to sadness, and to work towards a goal. Maybe it's plant-based eating, becoming plant-based. Maybe it's changing your job. Maybe it's having more meaning and purpose in your life, to be more connected to yourself, and to do it in a process that actually works, which is not through self-judgment, but through self-love. So if you are interested in self-development, in working with a transformational coach, I'm happy to offer you a free consult so that we can see if we're a good fit. And the link for that is in the description, my bio. That's going to be somewhere around here, I'm sure. And now I'm super excited to be answering all of your awesome questions about coaching and about plant-based eating. So I hope you have enjoyed those plant-based tips, and we are going straight into the Q&A. The first question is, I would like to be more plant-based to help the planet's health. I don't think I'd be able to be fully plant-based yet, but I'd like to start. What are the main benefits of this, and does it make a difference if I'm partly plant-based? What would be the best things to eat or avoid if I'm doing it part-time? Absolutely, like totally go for it. Start slow, like I said, so you don't have to go full in. And like I said, start with breakfast or lunch or dinner, like the meal that feels the easiest for you to start with. For me was breakfast, so I often recommend breakfast, going with green smoothies or oatmeal, anything like that, porridges. And I've got plenty of recipes on soulintheraw.com and in my courses. Um, and it makes a difference for the planet. Absolutely. It reduces your footprint on the planet the less meat and dairy that you eat. Things to avoid, it would just be focusing on the more plants I can put into my diet, the better. It's not about avoiding certain things, it's just about how little animal products can I eat and how much more plant-based foods can I put in. What is the difference between vegan and plant-based? Love this question. Really, really good point. So, vegan is just avoiding animal products. And I like to use the other term that I like is whole food plant-based, which means that you're eating whole foods. So, in terms of food, so vegan is like an ethical standpoint, right? It's your standpoint towards animals that you don't want to harm them or you want to cause the least harm possible. Whereas whole food plant based means that you are focusing on your health and you're eating whole foods. So you'd be avoiding refined carbohydrates, you'd be avoiding like fake meats and fake cheeses, stuff like that. Could you share some insight on some of the positive long-term effects being plant-based has had on you? Objectively, it is really that much more costly to be plant-based versus omnivore. Not at all more expensive. Not at all. It's so much cheaper actually when you're focusing on whole foods again. So, not those replacements for meat and dairy, but rather whole foods, vegetables, fruits, potatoes, sweet potato. I'm just naming some of the cheap foods: potatoes, sweet potatoes, oats, whole grains like brown rice, beans that you cook from scratch rather than canned beans. All super, super cheap. It's literally like poor people's food. So it can be extremely cheap to do this. Um, some of the positive effects. First of all, my PMS is gone. How amazing is that? I used to literally be debilitated on my period and take 10 painkillers a day to survive. I've had so much more energy, mental clarity, just really feeling more connected to myself. That's the biggest thing. Feeling connected to myself, to my purpose, and able to tap into my intuition. That's really what I like to work with my clients on. So, just self connection, living a life of purpose rather than doing what you're supposed to be doing. But with my clients, I've seen things like reducing their diabetes, reversing arthritis, just the most amazing things. What animal substitutes do you suggest? I'm trying to remove dairy, beef, and poultry from my diet. You're amazing. Congrats. I'm so proud of you. So I don't like to, as I said, go to the very processed route. You could for a while if you're really struggling, but just see it as a transitional food. But if you want to go more clean for cheese, I really like Tree Line cheese. Tree Line is the brand. You can get it at Whole Foods and other places. And for meat, I love soy curls. If you haven't discovered them, they're awesome. And they are more whole foods based. They're very simple, one ingredient made of soy, non GMO, and they taste a lot like chicken strips. They're delicious. Are you plant-based in things outside of diet, like the products you use? Yes, but it took me time to get there. So I still wear leather, but I never buy leather. I still wear, leather from the past. Like I don't want to throw those things away because it's wasteful for the environment. So I would do wear my clothes from the past that are still functional, but I would never buy leather or fur or silk, anything like that. I also check all of the ingredients. I use 100% pure for any makeup, which I wear very little. But and I also forgot to mention that that my skin is super clear. As you can see, I don't have any makeup on.
So that's a big benefit. So I use 100% pure. I check my labels. I get cruelty-free and vegan ingredients as well. But it took me time to get there. So take your time, be kind and patient to yourself, and just have that as an end goal. Since you're also a life coach, would you recommend any behavioral shifts or changes to try to make that would assist in transitioning onto a plant based diet? My favorite question of all. That is what I love working with my clients on. So, things like really tapping into the inside of yourself. And the most important key in this process is acceptance, practicing self acceptance. So, really loving yourself through it, meaning, and I'll give you a very functional tip so that you can know what acceptance actually means. When you screw up, and we're all going to screw up because we're human, we actually send love to the part of us in the body that feels constricted, that feels angry, that feels whatever it feels, heavy. We send love to it in that moment. And that makes us more effective. That makes us more effective in making this change rather than self judgment. So that's just one tip I have for you. I've heard that you can get all the proper nutrients through a plant based diet. Are there any supplements that you recommend? Yes, B12 is a must. So definitely B12. And then in some areas, it's also vitamin D if you're not getting enough sun. Other than that, you're good to go. I also have online courses that can teach you all of the nutrients that you would ever need to get on a plant based lifestyle. So, those are on my website under online courses, how to cook, how to make delicious food. It's all on there. What do you recommend I do to manage cravings for meat on days where we might go plant based? Great question. Really self compassion. If you are having those cravings, and you're judging yourself for it, that really makes the cravings even stronger. This is resistance, right? And when you resist it, you get stuck resisting the resistance. You get stuck in one place. So, first of all, self compassion. Right now, I'm craving meat. Just even saying that right now, just acknowledging and then giving yourself the love. I acknowledge myself for trying. And if you really feel like I can't take it, then you eat some and still feel compassionate for yourself. And over time, you will not crave it as hard. I promise you. I can tell you, I don't crave it at all anymore. What are common pitfalls when transitioning? I'm not eating enough. That's the biggest thing I see. So make sure that your portions are big enough, bigger than before for sure, because plants have more water and fiber. So the bulk is going to be bigger. You're going to be eating more. What are your top three favorite plant-based meals? Oh my goodness, so hard. Smoothie bowls in the morning, and I love oatmeal as well, or I love making raw granola and putting like berries and soy milk, and it's really, really good. I love Buddha bowls. Nothing better than Buddha bowls. They're so creative and so much fun. I love sushi. I used to be a huge sushi person, so now I make plant-based sushi. Protein sources. So I will tell you it's not something to super worry about. So things like beans and whole grains will get you covered. And we are about to wrap up. So I want to share with you that if you are struggling and you want more life coaching on this side, transformational coaching, I am offering a session to see if we're a good fit. So make sure you schedule that with me. And I do have the online courses for people who want to learn exactly like what do I cook? How do I make the food? How do I do all of those practical things with recipes and everything? And all of that is on my website at solnara.com under online courses. It'll teach you everything that you need to know. So just really, really be compassionate with yourself. Take it one step at a time and give yourself so much love and appreciation for even like being here and wanting to do this. Because in the beginning, it's a little bit trickier, but I can tell you 9 years later that I don't have any cravings at all. I'm so happy living this lifestyle, and you can get there too. It is a process. But the more compassionate and accepting you are of yourself, the faster you'll get there. So that's pretty cool. Thank you so much, everyone. Would love to coach you if you are wanting to have this transformation from the inside out and really change your behavior, because what I found is that it affects every area of your life when you do the transformational life coaching work. It's really a beautiful, beautiful process. So I hope you've enjoyed this session, and I hope that you Enjoy the rest of the sessions today. I'm sure they've been really, really awesome. Thank you so much.